Mr. Zalber, welcome to Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's Armenian Service Office, and thank you for this great opportunity. Mr. Zalber, now the OSCE co-chairs try to restart the negotiation process, and after the April war there were two meetings of presidents in Vienna and St. Petersburg, but you know that the Armenian side insists that there should be some kind of confidence building measure as well as some mechanism to investigate the ceasefire violations. I would like to know, do you think that these measures are necessary for the negotiations process and also to prevent the military actions on border?
I think these measures are necessary, and if implemented, they would be helpful to achieve one very important mid-term goal, or short-term goal. And this short-term goal is keeping the situation on the line of contact quiet, calm, without hostilities. This would facilitate then further negotiations. I hardly can imagine that you would have serious negotiations in an atmosphere in which you have to expect an escalation on the line of contact almost on a daily basis, even escalation in terms of minor incidents. That should be avoided, and the mechanisms or the measures that were agreed upon by both sides in Vienna and in St. Petersburg are exactly geared to achieve this situation of calm on the line of contact.
But if I'm not mistaken, Azerbaijan side and Azerbaijan president is against of this mechanism.
It is true that in Vienna, in the headquarters of the OSCE, discussions are going on. I mean, the agreement in St. Petersburg and before in Vienna was probably a more general one. So details have still to be defined, parameters have to be defined, how to carry it out, budgetary questions have to be replied to. So that process is going on. I would very much hope that this process comes to an end soon and that those measures that were agreed really can be implemented.
By the way, today you have met with the president of Armenia, and what was his message?
I think the way I understood him was that in St. Petersburg and before in Vienna, there was a serious discussion of many of the aspects that are needed for a comprehensive solution. We also have clear public statements after these meetings that the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan, together with President Putin, found agreement on two concrete projects. So the message for me is a process is going on. There will probably be more discussions in the near future. That is certainly a positive message, and the European Union feels encouraged by that.
Mr. Zalber, many experts predict that a new military escalation could be on border, and the International Crisis Group just yesterday released a report, and I would like to say that there is a serious risk that long-range ground-to-ground missiles would be used, and casualty, particularly civilian, could be much higher. What is your predictions?
I have no clear predictions on that. I think that would go beyond my mandate to have predictions here. But of course there is a real danger that if this conflict is not solved, there will be new escalations. By the way, what we have been observing in the past, also before this escalation in April, was continuous kind of low-intensity warfare. I think every few days people were killed on the line of contact and also on the international border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So there was, in principle, permanent hostility displayed on the line of contact. This can, of course, explode again. This is certainly the last thing we would like to see.
Maybe you have heard that 3 Armenian soldiers were beheaded, and even one of them was beheaded when he was still alive. Azerbaijan is also cut off 15 Armenian soldiers' ears, and the authorities in Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh called the international community to react on these atrocities. Now what I would like to ask you, what is your reaction? And what do you think? Is it possible any kind of conciliation when one side beheats the people?
The position on this by the European Union is totally clear, and we said it in our statements times and again, that of course such a behavior is completely unacceptable and should be investigated also. And those who committed these crimes should be brought to justice. There is no doubt. Is conciliation possible in this atmosphere? Look, there have been many conflicts in recent history when you also saw such examples of hatred, of atrocities. In some cases, if I look back at the last 60, 70 years, it was possible to come to reconciliation and to come to a situation of peace. I would certainly not give up hope that this is also possible in this conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh. A peace that would be in the interest of everybody here, not only in Armenia, also in Azerbaijan, and in the wider region, because it would allow people to use the potential that is in the region.
And my last question, Mr. Zalber, as you know, Russia, one of the co-chairs, sells the weapons to both sides by which they kill each other. And what do you think? Is it possible to contribute to peaceful settlement on one hand, and to sell weapons on the other hand? Do you know another example of such a contribution?
I mean, whether this is compatible or not, I think you should ask maybe a colleague from the Russian side so that he can give an interpretation of this situation. I think there was a discussion about that quite recently. The Russian side also said something about the way it looks at the conflict.
They say that it's just a business.
Yeah, maybe, but I would leave it to them to comment on that. No, it's not for the European Union to comment here on a policy of a third country.
But do you agree that selling weapons has a very bad impact on the region and on the conflict?
This could be. Of course, it is also true if the weapons would not come from the side from which they are coming now, probably they would come from another side. I think the essential thing is that people are ready to make peace in their brains and in their attitudes, which then would impact on their attitude in the negotiations. The question of where the weapons are coming from is maybe in this respect even a secondary one.
Thank you, Mr. Zalber, for a very interesting interview.
My pleasure.